There has never been a game mechanic more debated than the Nemesis system. Since its inception, Warner Brothers has fought for and now owns the patent to this Nemesis system.
The reason that the Nemesis system is controversial is because any developers who build game features that include the aspects of the Nemesis system or enough to risk infringing on the patent must purchase a license from Warner Bros.
Shadow of Mordor implements this highly controversial Nemesis system. In short, every NPC keeps a tab of what it has done to you and what you have done to it. It ranks these interactions and chooses the most interesting one to confront you with. Say a grunt kills you, the next time you see him, he will have been promoted to captain and he will be rubbing it in your face. The game borrows mechanics such as stealth and climbing from Assassin's Creed, as well as the combat from previous Warner Brother games like Arkham Knight and Arkham City. While it certainly makes use of these mechanics, it changed them enough for players to recognize what they are from, but changed enough to accomplish a certain goal. This game is meant to make you feel powerful. It is a revenge fantasy. You are a ranger from Middle-earth, your family has been slain, and you are seeking revenge on the dark forces for taking your family. These different mechanics allow you to experiment with playstyles, stalking your prey from above, setting explosions, teleporting to high ledges before dropping in on the enemy, or going in guns blazing and taking on hordes of orcs all by yourself. The climbing mechanics, as well as the assassination feature, comes from Assassin's Creed, but Shadow of Mordor has lowered the stakes on these features. Orcs are slow to see you, and even slower to alert surrounding orcs, giving you much more chances to enact your revenge without blowing your cover. There's many high pillars to hide on and bushes to hide in, and this whole game is basically a sandbox for you to enact your revenge on anything even remotely responsible for the death of your family.
Shadow of Mordor allows the player to interact with the world of Middle-earth, the fictional setting of author J.R.R. Tolkien's works. For some fans, this is an absolute dream come true, while for others, it's closer to a curse. Getting to be a ranger of Gondor and take on the black armies of Sauron is something I'm sure many fans would like to experience. The open world helps with this deep sense of immersion as well, letting players roam somewhat freely the area of Mordor, including locations like Cirith Ungol and Durthan, some of which are found in the films. These elven ruins remind you of the roots of Mordor, elves who once lived there. Games take place between the Hobbit series and The Lord of the Rings. It gives players a chance to explore Mordor before Sauron's reign. These games take a large step away from the films, which fans of the games are probably familiar with. In the films, Udun, which is Mordor, is industrialized, home to the Uruk and the Uruk-hai, a barren wasteland lying in shade. Light from the sun cannot penetrate the clouds of smoke from Mount Doom. Mordor in the games is more of a borderline mountain. It's filled with ruins of elven cities, scarred by newly started operations of Sauron, and it's not yet depleted of its resources. The sun is still visible. The looks of rusting metal, jagged and rigid, lends to the tone of the game. A game about revenge, grief, and sorrow.
Thematic or social immersion describes the connection between the player and the game's characters, or NPCs, or other players in multiplayer games. For Shadow of Mordor, by remembering previous interactions with the player and using them to build a story, playthroughs varied wildly. In terms of small-scale story arcs, the orcs only grow more and more familiar with the player as time progresses, which lead to their quips and actions becoming more and more customized to the player's actions and playstyle. By doing so, this also boosts the engagement of the player to the digital world of the game and its NPCs, creating a fun and alluring environment for the player. Narrative or sequential immersion refers to the player's sense of care for the game's story or progressive elements. Shadow of Mordor does this by cataloging every interaction between the player and the orc NPCs. The Nemesis system is then able to spin wonderful stories reminiscent of an improv performance, creating a unique story every playthrough. These stories captivate the player, boosting
Hate seeing
engagement,
ads.
and
Here's
adds
how
to
to
the feeling of narrative immersion in a personalized way, unlike any other game mechanic or system created to date.
Flow in Shadow of Mordor is tackled unconventionally. At the beginning of the game, combat can be challenging as you figure out how to leverage the strengths and weaknesses of captains or war chiefs. But once you do figure out how to leverage these challenges decrease quickly and deposits the player into the boredom zone. What redeems the pitfall is the pure intrinsic motivation that was poured into the combat. While fighting in Shadow of Mordor, there is an efficient way of killing things, and there is an awesome way of killing things. That being executions. While executions are empirically not the most efficient way to slay orcs, they are implemented so beautifully that they make players want to use them regardless of their efficiency. Executions take angle of approach, distance to foe, and enemy type into account when selecting from an array of animations, with the execution leading to some of the most gruesomely creative displays of revenge I've ever seen. Each one is cathartic and reinforces the theme of a man who is granted the power for complete and utter revenge against anyone and even remotely responsible for the death of his family. This clear goal, immediate and beautiful feedback, concentration on blocking incoming strikes, loss of self-reflection, and distorted perception of time force players into a flow state while it's ignoring its most important facet, matching player skill to difficulty.